When we talk about intimacy, most people focus on the physical techniques, on what to do or what not to do. But what I want to explore with you today is something far deeper, what it actually means when a man prioritizes a woman's pleasure. Because this isn't just about sex, it's about a man's relationship with himself. When a man chooses to give, to take the time to truly focus on his partner, to listen to her body and notice her reactions, he is making a statement about who he is. He is saying, I am not afraid of your pleasure. I am not intimidated by your needs. I am here to be present with you. And that, believe it or not, is one of the clearest signs of confidence a man can display. Think about it. In a world where so many men are conditioned to rush, to prove themselves, to perform, it takes courage to slow down, to say, this moment isn't just about me. True confidence isn't loud. It isn't about domination or conquest. True confidence is quiet and attentive. It is the ability to stay in the moment without needing to escape, to stay curious rather than anxious. And when a man takes this attitude into intimacy, it completely transforms the experience for both partners. Women notice this difference immediately, because for her, pleasure isn't just a physical experience, it's psychological. It's emotional. When she senses that her partner is fully present, that he is invested in her pleasure without pressure or expectation, she feels seen. She feels safe, and that safety allows her to open up, to relax, to experience intimacy in a deeper and more authentic way. This is why so many women will tell you that a man who is generous in the bedroom is unforgettable. It isn't simply the act itself, it's the message behind it. It says, you matter. Your experience matters. And here's where the psychology comes in. Men who are able to focus on their partner's pleasure are usually men who have done some internal work. They have faced their own insecurities. They are not terrified of rejection because they understand that intimacy is a dance, not a transaction. They don't need to prove their masculinity through selfishness. They express it through generosity. There's a fascinating paradox here. The more a man gives, the more powerful he feels. Not in the sense of control, but in the sense of mastery, mastery of himself, mastery of the moment. This generosity is not about technique, though technique matters. It's about curiosity. A man who is willing to ask, to explore, to learn what his partner likes, is a man who is brave enough to be vulnerable. Because asking means you are admitting you don't know everything. Exploring means you are willing to take your time. And learning means you are humble enough to understand that every partner, every experience is unique. This kind of vulnerability is magnetic. It builds trust. And trust, more than anything else, is what allows pleasure to deepen. Notice how this kind of confidence is the opposite of ego. Ego wants to win. Ego wants to get to the finish line. Confidence, on the other hand, wants to experience the whole journey. Confidence says, we're not in a hurry. Let's see what happens. And when a man embodies this mindset, the energy shifts. His partner feels free to express what she wants. She feels encouraged to let go of shame or fear. She feels invited into an experience where both of them can enjoy, explore, and connect. Philosophically, there is something profoundly beautiful about this. It's almost spiritual. Because when a man gives pleasure selflessly, he is dissolving the illusion of separation. He is saying, your joy is my joy. Your pleasure is my pleasure. And that is one of the purest forms of intimacy we can experience as human beings. It's not about dominance or submission, it's about union. And union requires courage. It requires that we let go of our masks, our roles, and our insecurities, and simply be present with another person. So the next time you think about intimacy, ask yourself, am I rushing to prove something, or am I slowing down to connect? Am I trying to win, or am I trying to share? Because when you shift from taking to giving, you will notice something incredible. Your partner will respond differently. She will trust you more. She will open up more. And you will experience a level of closeness that you may not have thought was possible. And here is the truth I want to leave you with. Real confidence isn't measured by how quickly you can get what you want. It's measured by how deeply you can give without fear. That is what makes a man unforgettable. That is what makes him the most confident, the most desired, the most trusted. And that is the man every woman remembers. When we talk about desire, we cannot separate it from the feeling of safety. Women are not simply looking for physical stimulation. They are looking for an experience where they can trust the man they are with, where they can let go without fear of being judged, rushed, or dismissed. A man who genuinely prioritizes her satisfaction sends a powerful message. You are safe here. You are valued here. That is not a small thing. It is the very foundation on which intimacy is built. Because pleasure cannot fully exist in a body that feels tense, guarded, or unsafe. When a man takes the time to explore what she likes, to check in with her, to notice the subtleties of her breath and her movements, he is showing her that her body and her feelings matter. This transforms intimacy from a performance into a collaboration. It moves it from something mechanical into something meaningful. She no longer feels like she has to fake enjoyment to protect his ego. She no longer feels pressured to hurry up so that he won't lose interest. Instead, she feels encouraged to be honest, to communicate what she wants and needs, and that honesty is what allows real pleasure to unfold. This is where desire becomes self-sustaining. Because when a woman feels satisfied, not just physically, but emotionally, she naturally becomes more playful, more open, more responsive. Her body begins to associate intimacy with safety and joy rather than obligation or stress. And this is the point many men miss. A woman's desire is not simply a switch you flip. It is something that grows in the presence of care, curiosity, and consistency. Men who understand this create a completely different dynamic in their relationships. They are not just chasing their own release, they are cultivating an atmosphere where pleasure can thrive for both of them. And this has ripple effects outside the bedroom. A woman who feels satisfied is a woman who feels connected, and that connection shows up in her mood, in her confidence, in the way she shows affection. This is why couples who prioritize mutual satisfaction tend to report higher levels of happiness overall. It isn't just about sex. It's about how sex becomes a language through which they communicate love, respect, and attention. Philosophically, this approach reflects a deeper truth about human relationships. When we take the time to focus on another person's needs, we dissolve the illusion of separateness. We remind them and ourselves that intimacy is not about winning or losing. It is about creating something together. And when you understand this, intimacy becomes an act of generosity, not a transaction. It becomes an expression of care, not a checklist. This doesn't mean that a man must suppress his own needs. Quite the opposite. A man who makes space for her pleasure often discovers that his own pleasure is heightened. There is something profoundly erotic about knowing you have given someone else deep satisfaction. That energy comes back to you, amplifying your own experience. It creates a cycle where both partners feed off each other's enjoyment, where both feel desired and celebrated. So when I say that women desire men who care about their satisfaction, I'm not talking about a superficial preference. I'm talking about a psychological reality. A woman who feels valued feels more alive. And when she feels more alive, she brings that aliveness back into the relationship. The intimacy grows deeper, the connection grows stronger, and the desire becomes something that doesn't fade after the first few months. It becomes something sustainable, something that continues to evolve. And here is what I want you to sit with. Satisfaction is not an accident, it is created. Every time you choose to slow down, to listen, to focus not just on what you want, but on what she needs, you are building a stronger, more passionate relationship. You are not just being a good lover, you are becoming a better partner. And that, in the end, is what every woman remembers.